Hey y'all, I hope you will join me today as I show you how to make these delicious garlic Italian cheddar biscuits. These turned out amazing and my family and I, we couldn't get enough of them. I had to make 2 batches in one day. So come along and I'll show you how to make these delicious biscuits. This was an experiment tonight and the experiment turned out very well. We are going to be using self-rising flour. And the flour that we like is White Lily self-rising flour. So we're gonna go ahead and get 2 cups. And a good idea would be to do this over the area that you're going to be using to make your biscuits. So if any flour falls out, it's no big deal because you're going to be putting flour on the surface anyway. So just a little pro tip there for you. All right, so we're done with the flour. All right, to the flour, I'm going to be adding 1/4 of a cup or 1/4 of a cup of shortening. And I'm just going to eyeball it. About the size of an egg. Just a tad bit more. All right, what you're gonna do is cut the shortening into the flour. And what I'm using, this is called a blending fork. And this thing works really well when it comes to cutting in your shortening or butter into flour. So I'm just gonna press it in there and mix it. Shortening is good and mixed in there. So now what I'm going to do is, even though there's baking soda in the self-rising flour, I'm going to add just a pinch more. I'm not going to use all of that. All right, so I'm just gonna mix that in. Now, if you just want a regular biscuit without all the extra ingredients that we're about to add, where you would go from here is you would add your buttermilk and then mix it all together and then make your biscuits. But before I add the buttermilk, I'm gonna add those other ingredients, the Italian seasoning and the cheddar cheese. I'm gonna go ahead and add that to the flour mixture before I add the buttermilk in. All right, so I have a 1/2 cup of reduced fat cheddar cheese, and you can use more than 1/2 cup if you would like to, or less than 1/2 cup, just depends on how cheesy you want your bread, but I'm just gonna do 1/2 cup of cheddar cheese. And then just kind of mix that in there. And then I'm gonna do 1/2 teaspoon of just some Italian seasoning. Now I've learned to go easy on the Italian seasoning. I tried making homemade meatballs one time and I didn't look at a recipe. I like to experiment, you know, a lot of us do. And so I added way too much Italian seasoning to those Italian meatballs and it tasted like a cleaner, like chemicals that you would clean with. Like it was so strong and so nasty. So I've learned to ease back on Italian seasoning. All right, so half a teaspoon of Italian seasoning is going in, and trust me, a half a teaspoon is plenty. I'm just gonna mix all that in there. So again, if you want more cheese, feel free to add it. If you want to leave something out, like you don't want Italian seasoning in there, but y'all, I'm telling you, this tastes delicious. And the last thing I am going to add, I'm going to add just a pinch of salt as well. Now, if you want a regular biscuit, this is the part that you would jump to, leaving out the cheese and the Italian seasoning. So we're gonna add buttermilk. Now, I don't know how much to tell you to add. You're just going to add buttermilk a little bit at a time, and you're gonna stir. After you add a little bit, stir, add a little bit more, and you're gonna keep doing that until there's no more loose flour in the bottom of the bowl. Now this basic biscuit recipe I got from another YouTube channel called Collard Valley Cooks. My husband and I really enjoy that channel. And so what I decided to do is take that regular biscuit recipe and just zhuzh it up a little bit. We had lasagna tonight, and so I thought, well, wouldn't it be neat if we had, or wouldn't it be good if we had some Italian cheddar biscuits, which I've never had before. It was just something I thought of. So I knew how to make biscuits, and I'm like, well, let's just throw some stuff in there and see how it turns out. I've had cheddar biscuits, garlic cheddar biscuits, but not with Italian seasoning in it. All right, so you can see how we still have some loose flour there. So we're gonna add some more. And you're just gonna stir it around. This is where you want to make sure you have some arm muscles, because it starts to get really hard to stir. Actually, that might be good. Yeah, that feels good. Okay. So we're done. You see, no more loose flour in the bottom of the bowl. All right, move this off to the side. All right, and I learned this from Collard Valley Cooks too. She uses a sifter to sift out the flour on the board. Makes it a lot easier. All right, and you're just going to take your dough and plop it right on down. I'm going to add some flour to the top of the dough, just a little bit, because you're going to find that the dough is sticky, of course. And so if we don't add some flour, it's going to stick to the board and to our hands. All right, so I'm just gonna kind of knead that flour just a little bit, just kind of folding it over a couple times. By folding it over, it's gonna help give you layers. And now we're just going to flatten it out to about 1/2 inch thick. Before you start cutting out your biscuits, what you're gonna wanna do is take a pan and you want to grease your pan, and I'm gonna use the shortening to grease it. Now you're not gonna need a huge pan. This is the smallest one I have, and I don't know what size it is. It doesn't say. Because this recipe is not going to make a ton of biscuits, I'm gonna use a smaller biscuit cutter, and it gave me about 12 biscuits. I think I didn't count when I first made them. I just kind of estimated when I was trying to think back on it. So I think it's about 12. So you're just going to grease. I'm not gonna grease all the way around because the biscuits aren't going to reach there, but I'm just gonna do the sides and the bottom. And that way the biscuits won't stick. Okay. All right, so the size cutter I am using is 2 1/4 inches. All right, so I've got my dough all good. And we're gonna start cutting. Yum. And if you put your biscuits close together, that's going to help them rise because they have nowhere else to go but up. Take my dough and smush it back together and get some more biscuits out of it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We're gonna make 2 smaller ones. So I got 11 out of this one. Now if you get some that are smaller than your biscuit cutter, just go ahead and shape them into a round disc. And it doesn't matter if they're not the same size. They're still gonna taste good. So now that the biscuits are cut out, what I'm going to do is take some buttermilk, and I'm going to put the buttermilk on top of the biscuits, and that'll help them get nice and golden brown in the oven. These biscuits are going into a preheated 475-degree oven. I'm going to leave them in there for about 9 minutes. I will keep an eye on them because I don't want these beauties to burn. But 9 minutes should be good, and I'll let you know if I decrease the time or increase the time once the 9 minutes is up. 475 degrees, sounds like that's too hot, but I've learned that when it comes to biscuits, not sure about regular bread, but when it comes to biscuits, I've learned that you want them to cook quickly so that they don't dry out. So the longer you leave them in the oven, the quicker they will dry out. So that's what we don't want. Dry biscuits, they're not appetizing. While the biscuits are doing their thing, I'm gonna go ahead and whip up the garlic butter. And so the butter I'm using is by Brummel and Brown, and it's the one made with yogurt. And what I like about this is it's only 45 calories per tablespoon. If you're getting regular butter, it's 100 calories per tablespoon. So, and y'all, this tastes great. Tastes like butter. So I'm gonna take 2 tablespoons of this, and I'm also going to take 1/8 of a tablespoon of minced garlic, and I'm gonna put them in this ramekin here, and then I'm gonna melt the butter in the microwave, and that will allow the garlic to infuse into the butter and be really nice. And this is what's gonna go on top of the biscuits. Did I say 1/8 of a tablespoon? I meant 1/8 of a teaspoon. All right, so that little bit's going in there. Just kind of mash it up. Garlic. I'm just gonna mash the garlic up in with the butter. All right, the biscuits are done. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and melt the butter in the microwave. What I'm going to do is take a basting brush, and I'm going to brush the garlic butter over the biscuits. Voila, they're done. All right, we are ready for the taste test. All right, here we go. Cheers. Cheers. You putting the whole thing in your mouth?
No, I have to do that.
That says it all. She's eating the whole half.
What?
That means it's good.
All right, y'all, thank you for joining me today, and I hope you give these delicious garlic Italian cheddar biscuits a try. They really taste great, and they would be the perfect complement to any Italian dish that you are having. Thanks, y'all. Bye.